Get ready for a journey across the world's most beautiful cities, where charm meets diversity in a unique visual experience. From the dreamy streets of Paris to the modern skyline of Dubai, through the serene beauty of Kyoto to the historic grandeur of Rome and the vibrant energy of New York. Welcome back, and today we take you on a journey to London. London, the city that refused to die. Stand on any street corner in London today and count the languages you hear. 30 seconds, a dozen, maybe more. Nearly 40% of the people living in this city were born somewhere else entirely. London is one of the most diverse places on Earth, a crossroads of civilizations, a magnet for humanity from every direction. But 2,000 years ago, this was marshland, a tidal river cutting through empty ground. No city, no people worth counting, nothing that any serious military strategist would look at twice. Then the Romans arrived. What followed was 2 millennia of invasion, plague, fire, and revolution. A trading post that became the center of the largest empire the modern world had ever seen. A city burned to ash and rebuilt in stone. A place that absorbed every catastrophe thrown at it and kept growing. This is London, and its story is unlike any other city on Earth. The year is 43 AD. 4 Roman legions have landed on the Kent coast, and they are moving inland. They need to cross the Thames. Specifically, they need the lowest crossing point before the river widens into an estuary, a place where a bridge can be built, where supply lines can be established back to the continent. They find it here. Within a decade, Londinium is alive. Merchants from Gaul, soldiers from Syria, traders from North Africa. A bridge goes up at the exact location where London Bridge stands today. Around it, a port town materializes almost overnight, the kind of place that forms wherever commerce and geography intersect. Then, 17 years after its founding, it burns. Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe has had enough of Roman occupation. Her army marches on Londinium and reduces camps to ash. Archaeologists excavating beneath the modern city have found the evidence, a distinct layer of red ash buried under 2,000 years of subsequent history. The fire that destroyed the first London is still there, compressed into the earth, waiting to be found. The Romans rebuild, larger than before. They construct a massive defensive wall around the city, sections of it still standing today, and Londinium grows into something impressive, perhaps 60 pharaoh. No god will ever take Larshiu. This is no frontier outpost. It is a proper Roman city. Until it isn't. By around 410 AD, the empire is coming apart. Barbarian pressure from every direction. Britain is too distant, too expensive to hold. Emperor Honorius sends to Salon Honavik, Onits, the most brutal administrative message in history: you are on your own. The legions withdraw. Without Rome, everything that held Londinium together, the trade networks, the supply chains, the currency, the officials, simply stops. A city of perhaps 50,000 collapses to a few hundred people scratching out existence among the ruins. For 2 centuries, the grand buildings slowly decay. Roofs cave in, walls crumble, weeds push up through mosaic floors. But the river keeps flowing. The Germanic tribes who filled the power vacuum left by Rome had no tradition of city life. The Saxons were farmers, villagers, and they were, by multiple accounts, genuinely afraid of what the Romans had left behind. One Saxon poet described the ruins of Roman Britain as the work of giants, structures so massive, so far beyond anything his people could build, that he couldn't conceive of how mere humans had made them. So the Saxons didn't move in. Around 670 AD, they built a new settlement approximately 1 mile west of the old Roman walls. They called it Londonwic, London Trading Town. This is where Covent Garden and the Strand are today. If you've ever watched a performance at the Royal Opera House, you are sitting directly above Saxon London. By the early 700s, Londonwic is thriving. Amber from the Baltic, millstones and wine from the Rhineland, pottery and metalwork from across the continent. Perhaps 8,000 people living and working in a town built entirely by people who once feared to enter the ruins a mile to the east. Then the Vikings arrive. Starting in the late 8th century, Norse raiders begin targeting Londonwic with increasing aggression. In 842, they sack it completely, In 851, they do it again. King Alfred the Great finally acts. In 886, he retakes London from the Danes and makes a decision of remarkable strategic clarity. He abandons London Wick entirely and moves everyone back inside the old Roman walled city. Easier to defend, better protected. The ancient walls suddenly useful again. The new settlement is called Londonburg, London Fortress. The abandoned settlement a mile to the west slowly earns a new name, Ealdwig, the Old Settlement. That name survives today as Aldwych, the curved street in central London, a ghost of a city that was founded, thrived, abandoned, and forgotten. Its name the only thing remaining. The Normans, conquest in stone. Over the next century and a half, London changes hands repeatedly between Saxon and Danish rulers. In 1016, King Canute, the one from the famous story about commanding the tide, makes London his capital. In 1042, Edward the Confessor becomes king and builds Westminster Abbey just west of the city walls. That single decision defines London's geography to this day. The commercial city to the east, the seat of power to the west. Two centers, one city, a division that has severing never fully dissolved. Edward the Confessor dies childless in January 1066, and England fractures. Harold Godwinson takes the crown, but across the Channel, William, Duke of Normandy, claims Edward had promised the throne to him. In September, Harold rushes north to defeat a Norwegian invasion. He wins, but his army is exhausted, his men barely recovered when the news arrives. William has landed on the Sapary with 7,000 soldiers. Harold marches south without rest. The two armies meet at Hastings on October 14th. By nightfall, Harold is dead, and England has a new king. On Christmas Day 1066, William is crowned at Westminster Abbey. He doesn't trust London. The city had supported Harold, after all. So he builds fortresses, not one but three, to contain the population. The largest becomes the Tower of Heritage. Its central keep, the White Tower, rises 90 feet with walls 12 feet thick in places. It dominates the skyline, a statement carved in stone. This is who rules you now. The tower begins as a symbol of oppression. It will remain a symbol of royal power for the next 1,000 years. Medieval London is cramped, chaotic, and increasingly wealthy. By 1100, around 15,000 people live here. The city's merchants organize into guilds, goldsmiths, fishmongers, drapers, mercers, that become so powerful the king himself must negotiate with them. In 1215, when the barons force King John to sign Magna Carta, London's support is so critical that the city extracts its own concessions, the right to elect its own mayor, and freedom from arbitrary taxation. London Bridge, rebuilt in stone between 1176 and 1209, becomes something that defies easy categorization. It takes 33 years to build. By the time it's finished, it carries shops and houses along both sides, a chapel, a drawbridge, and, grimly, the severed heads of traitors displayed on spikes at its gates as a warning to anyone considering disloyalty. For over 600 years, it is the only crossing of the Thames in London. Then, in 1348, ships dock at London's wharves. They are carrying rats. The rats carry fleas. The fleas carry Yersinia pestis. The Black Death arrives in London. Within 2 years, somewhere between a third and half of the city's population is dead. A city that had grown to perhaps 80,000. People is suddenly half empty. Entire streets abandoned. Bodies accumulating faster than they can be buried. Mass graves opened in fields outside the city walls, and London recovers slowly. By the late 14th century, it is growing again. But the social order is cracking. In 1381, peasants and workers march on the city, demanding an attack to the Five Gaz and punishing taxes. Wat Tyler leads them. They storm the Tower of London, execute the Archbishop of Canterbury, burn the palace of John of Gaunt. The teenage King Richard II rides out to meet them, makes promises. The revolt is eventually crushed. Tyler is killed. The leaders are hunted down. But something has changed. The common people of London have discovered what they are capable of, and they will not forget it. By 1500, London's population has recovered to roughly 50,000. Then something remarkable happens. It detonates. By 1600, 200,000 people. By 1650, nearly 400,000. London becomes the largest city in Europe, a growth rate so extreme it transforms every aspect of city life. Henry VIII's break with Rome in the 1530s accelerates this transformation in a specific and unexpected way. Henry wanted a divorce. The Pope refused. Henry broke from the Catholic Church, made himself head of the new Church of England, and dissolved the monasteries. In London, the monasteries owned enormous tracts of land. Once Henry seized it, that land became available for development. Aristocrats and wealthy merchants bought it up and built. Suddenly, London had room to expand. Under Elizabeth I, London becomes the cultural capital of Europe. The Globe Theatre opens on the South Bank in 1599. Shakespeare is staging Hamlet, Othello, King Lear. Merchants are growing wealthy from trade with the New World and Asia. The East India Company is founded in 1600, the institution that will eventually give Britain its empire. But London is also a city waiting to destroy itself, built almost entirely from timber, thatched roofs of dried straw, houses packed so tightly that upper floors on opposite sides of narrow streets nearly touch each other. Open fires in every building for cooking and warmth, candles everywhere, no fire service of any kind. It is a city-sized tinderbox, and it is due.
Ready to unlock something amazing? You don't want to miss what's next. Every like, every comment, and especially every share helps us create more jaw-dropping content just for you. So hit that subscribe button right now to join our incredible community.
In 1665, the plague returns. Not the Black Death exactly, but close enough. At its peak, 7,000 Londoners are dying every week. The wealthy flee to the countryside. The poor have nowhere to go. By the time the epidemic burns itself out, approximately 100,000 people are dead, a quarter of the city's population, in a single year. The following year, on the morning of September 2nd, 1666, a fire starts in a bakery on Pudding Lane. It has been a hot, dry summer. Strong winds are blowing from the east. The fire reaches the first timber building, and then the next, and then the next, moving faster than anyone can respond to it. For 4 days, London burns. 85% of the city within the walls is destroyed. 13,000 houses, 87 churches, including the original St. Paul's Cathedral. Only 6 people die in the fire itself, which is astonishing given its scale, but 100,000 are left without homes. The architect Christopher Wren sees the catastrophe as an opportunity. He proposes a new city, wide boulevards, classical architecture, rational planning. It is visionary, and it is almost completely rejected. Property rights are too entangled, the need to rebuild too urgent. Most streets follow their medieval lines, but the new building regulations are enforced without exception. Brick and stone only, no more timber and thatch, and Wren is given one great commission, a new St. Paul's Cathedral. The building that rises over the following 35 years, with its iconic dome, still dominates the London skyline. It is one of the few buildings to survive the German bombing. Campaign 300 years later. 18th century London is the intellectual center of the Western world. Coffee houses function as the internet of their era, places where merchants, scientists, politicians, and writers gather to exchange information, debate ideas, and make deals. Lloyd's Coffee House becomes Lloyd's of London, the insurance market that still operates today. Jonathan's Coffee House becomes the London Stock Exchange. The city is also becoming the capital of a global empire. In 1735, Robert Walpole becomes the first prime minister to use 10 Downing Street as an official residence. In 1761, George III purchases Buckingham House as a private family home, the building that will eventually become Buckingham Palace. London's physical footprint expands. Westminster Bridge opens in 1750, ending 6 centuries in which London Bridge was the Thames's only crossing. Blackfriars Bridge follows in 176-9. After Napoleon's defeat in 1815, Britain stands alone as the world's dominant power. The money flows to London, from India, from the Caribbean, from Africa, from trading networks spanning every inhabited continent. Then the Industrial Revolution transforms the city again. In 1801, just over 1 million people. By 1851, 2.5 million. By 1901, 6.5 million. London is the largest city in the world. Victorian London, grand ambition, brutal inequality. The Victorians build on a scale that is difficult to fully comprehend. Trafalgar Square is laid out in the 1840s to commemorate Nelson's victory at sea. The Houses of Parliament and Big Ben rise in the sea after the old palace burns down, that Gothic revival silhouette defining the city's identity for every generation that follows. In 1851, the Great Exhibition opens in Hyde Park. The Crystal Palace, iron and glass on an unprecedented scale, draws 6 million visitors to celebrate Britain at the absolute undiscoverable place, peak of its global power. The sewage system still operating beneath London today was built by Joseph Bazalgette after the Great Stink of 1858, when the Thames became so catastrophically sick, polluted, that Parliament itself had to adjourn because the smell was unbearable. The Underground, the world's first subway system, opens in 1863. Tower Bridge, an engineering achievement of extraordinary complexity, is completed in 1894. But Victorian London is also a city of savage inequality, existing in deliberate proximity to extraordinary wealth. Cholera epidemics in the 1830s and 1840s killed tens of thousands, entire neighborhoods wiped out by contaminated water, while the wealthy nearby are untouched. It takes a physician named John Snow working in 1854 to prove that cholera spreads through contaminated water rather than through air, one of the foundational discoveries in the history of public health, before the problem is actually addressed. In 1829, Robert Peel establishes the Metropolitan Police, the first professional police force in the world, its officers nicknamed Bobbies after him. In 1888, a killer the press names Jack the Ripper murders at least 5 women in Whitechapel. He is never identified, never caught. The case haunts the name, a symbol of everything that wealth and ambition left in shadow. Charles Dickens chronicles all of it. The workhouses, the slums, the child labor, the moral obscenity of a civilization that is simultaneously the richest on earth and home to it. All of it compressed into the same sector and same city. The First World War bleeds a generation of young British men dry. London's physical infrastructure survives, but the certainties that supported it do not. Then comes the Blitz. Between September 1940 and May 1941, the German Luftwaffe bombs London almost every night. Entire neighborhoods are leveled. 1 million buildings are damaged or delimits or destroyed across the city. And yet St. Paul's Cathedral stands. A photograph from the height of the bombing, the cathedral's dome rising intact above the surrounding smoke and flame, becomes the defining image of London's refusal to break. When the war ends, Britain is exhausted and broke. The empire is dissolving. India gains independence in 1947. Rationing continues into the 1950s. In 1952, the Great Smog, a toxic combination of fog and coal smoke so dense it is nearly solid, kills 12,000 people in 5 days. But London rebuilds, again. The 1951 Festival of Britain on the South Bank signals the intention to look forward. And crucially, people begin arriving from the former colonies. The Windrush generation from the Caribbean in 1948. Waves of immigration from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, later from Africa, Eastern Europe, and beyond. The 1960s bring a cultural explosion. Swinging London, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Carnaby Street. For a moment, the city that had survived the worst of the hit 20th century feels genuinely young again. The following decades are harder. Economic decline, strikes, IRA terrorism. By the 1980s, the docklands have been abandoned, the East End neglected. Then comes transformation. Canary Wharf rising from the old docks, the financial sector expanding on a massive scale. London reinventing itself as a global financial center for the second time in its history. The 21st century begins awkwardly. The Millennium Dome, an expensive and widely derided project. But the city keeps moving. The 2012 Olympic Games transform East London, bringing infrastructure investment to areas that had been neglected for decades. The city passes 9 million people, its highest population since before the Second World War. The skyline keeps changing. The Shard, the Gherkin, the Walkie-Talkie Building, glass and steel towers rising alongside and above the architectural remnants of every previous century. Modern London is defined by its diversity in a way that no previous version of the city has been. Over 300 languages are spoken here. Brixton's Caribbean community, Southall's South Asian heart, Chinatown, Turkish Dalston, Polish Hammersmith. You can find food, music, and a community from virtually anywhere on Earth within the boundaries of a single city. It is messy, it is expensive, it is crowded and complicated, and constantly debating what it is and what it should be. It has been all of these things for 2,000 years. London has survived Roman abandonment, Viking raids, the Black Death, the Great Fire, the Blitz. Each time it was broken, it rebuilt differently, absorbing new people, new ideas, new purposes. That is not simply resilience. That is the entire point of London. It has never been one thing. It has always been everything at once. And it is not finished yet.
If you want to uncover more hidden stories, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends.